Just waiting for the notification.
Sound check. Sound check. I need headphones to listen to it on your phone.
Normally I have earbuds on me, but apparently not. We live now. But we still haven't done our sound check yet, so we're still, we're getting there.
Yeah, I gotta listen to it on the phone.
Oh, yeah.
And then...
Here we go. Oh, let me turn off Do Not Disturb, because then that turns off on the phone.
Yeah, here we go. I need to hear what you hear.
Humans and others, and such.
Oh, there's a commercial playing right now.
Is there? Oh, for crying out loud. Here, skip ad. There. Wait, what? Oh, it accidentally went to like a new video for some reason. There.
Okay. Testing
right.
me, testing me, testing me, testing me. Me, 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 me. Me, 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 me.
Hello.
Yeah, that sounds good. Now you.
All right, yeah, me. Me. Me.
Now it's doing you.
All right.
We're fine.
All right, cool. Hey guys, welcome to RCR podcast number 24. I'm Nick.
I'm Brian, and I just hit record on the recorder.
Oh, all right. So should I read that?
Nah, we're good.
All right. Well, basically, this is podcast number 24. And real quick, I just wanted to shout out to Ben Lynn and Ben Thorne of Gears and Gasoline, who sent us complimentary shirts for the holiday season. And for whatever reason, I didn't get them until after I got back from New Zealand and didn't realize that they were there. So sorry about that, guys. Thank you so much for the awesome shirts. Keep up the great work on your awesome channel. And anyway, so you had a pretty big weekend.
Big weekend in Pittsburgh. I filmed one car, which we can't talk about it now, but it'll be one of the very American cars, American Asterix car that...
it's like our back in the USSA season or something like that.
Back in RCR season, whatever season.
Yeah, whatever.
I don't know. I think I'll stop numbering the seasons. But I started numbering the seasons.
No,
so
now you can't.
Now
you
I have to
not
do it.
number the seasons.
Yeah, it would be. I wanted to call it Eternal Spring Sundays, but back in the USSSA sounds that your idea is better. Stuart Hill says, "Smoke a bowl with me." Well, they haven't passed the legislation yet in Pennsylvania for us to do that. Right now, there's some sort of thing that Governor Wolf, and yes, our governor is called Governor Wolf of Pennsylvania, signed that something's going to do something at some point, but really someone's got to get paid off before that paperwork can get pushed through Harrisburg. Anyway, my weekend this year... My weekend this week was going out to Pittsburgh to film one car and also to see the greatest band in the world. My favorite band is a ska band called the Slackers. You think of it as reggae music sung with a Brooklyn accent, and it was 3 hours of this fanboy moment because I saw it at Mr. Small's in Millvale/Pittsburgh. And Mr. Small's is a venue built into a gigantic church. Used to be a church. And they have two stages. They have the main stage, and then they have the Fun House, which is their smaller stage upstairs. So we saw Slackers. Who was on the main stage? The Afghan Wigs, which I've never heard of. I guess it's indie rock or hipster rock or something like that. People in the comments will correct me. Gigantic Afghan Wigs fans. But I was there to see the Slackers. Which when people complain like, oh, there's no good music today, you gotta look for it.
Yeah.
You really have to hunt for it. No good, well-produced music is just going to come right out and present itself to you, especially if you're listening to the radio or even like on Pandora, it's getting a little top 40.
Yeah. And this is the complaint of every season, in the same sense that the only good seasons of SNL were the seasons that were airing when you were growing up. SNL is only good when you were young.
Yeah.
The same way music was only good when you were young as well, even though the top 40 on the radio back then was just as trash as it probably is now to a lot of people.
Right.
And you had to do just as much looking for good music, you know. Well, maybe not as much looking, but even then, you know, today's music has quality if you're willing to go out there and find it. So, you know, it's exactly like you said.
Yeah. Richrick Zurich in the comments says, yes, there is a metric shit ton of good music. There is. And the Slackers is, oh gosh, it's like a 6-piece band. Well, let's see. They have 2 front men. Like technically Vic.
So like Bare Naked Ladies kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, totally like Bare Naked Ladies. I've been mispronouncing the sort of, the guy who sings more is Vic. I've been pronouncing it Ruggiero, but it's Ruggiero. He's Italian American.
Ruggiero.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew it. Ruggiero.
Ruggiero?
Or Ruggiero.
Ruggiero, that's probably what
I had a classmate with that last name.
Oh, cool.
And so it was kind of like Ruggiero, but I'm not entirely sure about it. That was like me going, because I didn't really know the guy. It's just
right. Anyway, so Vic Ruggiero mostly plays piano, although he's instrumentally talented. And then the other guy is the trombone player, Glenn Pine, and he looks like everybody's dad. And half the time sings in a black accent. So it's like everybody, potato salad, church picnic, white guy dad, and then out of his mouth comes heavy reggae accent, like when he sings. On not all the songs, but
it's just like Baja Men, like all up in it. I didn't want to say Bob Marley, but
right, but still, you kind of go there.
You kind of go there, yeah.
I wouldn't go that ganja, but definitely is when he has this one song called What Went Wrong. Glenn Pine can sing in harmony like with other people way more than like Rick Astley, but it's that Rick Astley moment where you think that's a big black guy. No, it's a skinny white guy. Yeah. No, this is a hip Jamaican guy. Oh no, it's the dad next door. And that's wild. And
it's the All-Father.
Russ Bucket HD says, I think we need a crossover shitpost episode with RCR and Doug DeMurio. Actually, that's not a bad idea. I don't know how hip Doug would be to throw an entire video in the trash. But I kind of want to do that, even just for ourselves. I mean, we do have a video coming up that I'm going full negative on, and it is a RCR NZ video. But I asked the owner if I could just go trash on the car, and he said, yeah, sure.
Yeah, and that's not the same as throwing a video in the trash. It's just we're trashing on the car, and some people prefer of just, well, you hate this car, and you're being honest about it. And as long as you're being honest and fair within the parameters of a car review, then I don't think people really care that much. Yeah.
So I was in full fanboy mode.
I'm looking them up. I'm doing like a
the Slackers.
Pull it up. Type thing.
I was in full fanboy mode because I was listening to the Slackers at least for 10 years. And we go upstairs, and the fun house is like the stage in the fun house is almost like the size of 2 commercial garage bays in just your everyday shop. Like you walk into Bruce's, you picture like the area, the first 2, maybe first 3 cars with the dual post lifts. That's it. The stage is maybe 2.5 feet above the ground off the ground. Maybe 3. Your standard stage risers that some people stack. It's just like one level of those. That's
it's like
it.
From the ground to the top of the futon.
Yeah. I think the monitors for the stage are also the speakers for the stage. I saw the guys' monitors that face toward the stage, but I kind of wondered if that was... I didn't look around. I didn't see any other PAs. So it's really super intimate, Mr. Small's Funhouse. And I get there and immediately I see Vic just standing there in like a V-neck t-shirt talking to somebody. I'm like, holy shit, that's one of the greatest ska musicians in the world, and he's right there. And then I look over and then I see, I'm not like speaking their like stage names. I see Disco Dave. They all have like Vic Ruggiero. How do you Ruggiero? Ruggiero. Vic Ruggiero's right there. I didn't see Glenn Pine until he went on stage. There's another guy named Dave who has a stage name, Disco Dave. He plays a sax. There's Agent J, the guitar player.
Yeah, the Wikipedia has their real names, but none of their fake names or their stage names except for Agent J.
Yeah.
And they have former band members like Mush One and Zulu and King Django.
So this one guy in the comment says, I'm stuck in gym class where we are stuck sitting down and aren't allowed to get up. Please send help. The teachers are... Oh, you have that one gym class where you sit on the bleachers? You ever have that?
No.
You've never had a gym class where it's not a gym class?
No.
Where you go to gym class, they have nothing planned, so you're all supposed to sit, they turn it into a study hall and you just sit on the bleachers?
No. What grade would this be?
High school.
All right, well, no, because I did weight training. So I never had like regular gym.
I should have did that. Like, I didn't know that was there. You could take regular gym or you could take advanced gym. And it wasn't until senior year that, like halfway through senior year, that I learned that advanced gym is just going to the weight room. Yeah. And I'm like, shit, I could have done that instead of playing these stupid games that I don't, and basketball that I hate, and dodgeball that I... Look, we're not middle school anymore. This is stupid. Oh, indoor baseball with tennis rackets, and everybody who goes to bat hits a home run. Yeah. Like if you hit the ceiling, it's a home run or it's out. You got to hit the back wall, and that's no problem because everybody just leans into it, whack. Yeah. You hit that tennis ball to the other side. Yeah, going to the weight room like twice a week would be awesome.
Oh, we did weight training literally every day. I went to the weight room when I didn't have to because it was a nicely it was a place where they were always playing Journey for some reason. It was always, either Don't Stop Believing or and then it's just you get to work out your anger issues on the jammer, that thing where you load up the weights on either side and you're standing there in a squat position and you're just like boom, boom, but it's like your whole body is moving it.
What's the jammer?
We called it the jammer. I don't know what its real name is, but it's a standing machine, and you have these grips and you push forward, like you're moving your whole body to move it forward, but like you get the heavy plates on either side of the grips so that you're really moving.
Is it on a pivot, like it swings forward?
No, it doesn't swing. Well, I mean, no, it doesn't swing. And that would be...
It's not the Smith machine.
Well, I don't know what a Smith machine is.
Smith machine is that squat rack where the bar it's a captured bar. It's connected to those two posts.
No.
Oh, okay.
This is like a separate thing. It's almost like an arm thing. It's just strange in that with weightlifting, those were the things that you would do if you didn't have someone there to spot you. Like if you wanted to power clean and you had no one there to spot you, it's like you just go to the jammer. And my weight room instructor always had like the biggest hard on for the jammer, and I think it's because they paid like an ass load of money to get this thing, because we had a very advanced weight room, because I went to I was a poor kid who went to the rich kid school by a quirk of districting. Yeah. So it was they had revamped the entire weight room, and they had all this state-of-the-art equipment and all this really cool stuff, and I was in like the best shape of my life while still eating like absolute garbage. And it was just incredibly strange, but that's because everything was regimented. You had you were getting like a free personal trainer saying like, this is what you do, this is how much you do it, and you have to keep pushing yourself to go beyond these set boundaries and these limits. And the only way that you could fail is if you didn't increase your max from when you started, which was absolutely impossible not to do if you were actually doing the work. You know, like if you started out bench pressing like 175, even you would pass if you could bench 180. It's just absurd that you wouldn't be able to. And so I think like my max like bench was around 220 by the end of like senior year.
Nice.
Which I had started out in like 9th grade doing like, oh, I'll bench like 135 or something. So I don't know, it's not that great, but it's still something. But yeah, anyway,
we'll get back to the slackers in a moment. In the comment section, guy named Esker Outcome says, Mr. Regular, as a former English teacher, do you have any advice for a fledgling college student? Does that mean you're a freshman? Also, would you say a history degree with a minor in English is a good idea? Well, do you want to teach English? Because other than that, history is not. History major doesn't have any commercial applications. Unless you want to teach.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice to say you're a history major, but unless you want to become a history teacher, I don't know, man. Justin Kramer, the co-mechanic and co-owner of Slatington Auto Repair and one of the builders of the Vagabond Falcon, is a history major. And he's a mechanic now, which means you're going to do a lot of different things in your life. So the answer is no. It depends. It really what you want to do. If you want an English degree, if you want to write and do what we do here, you don't need a college degree. No one will ask for it. The only people who asked to see my transcripts was when I was in an education career. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be an automotive journalist. What major should I have? Honestly, audit classes, because then you don't have to take gym in college. There were so many bullshit classes I took at Kutztown. And if you have your heart set on some sort of media thing, like writing in some sense, the first thing that any employer asks for is a writing sample. They never, you say you go to any college you want, or even like say you go to Kutztown, or say you go to Millersville. I'm just naming schools in the Pennsylvania state system of higher education. Say you go to Shippensburg. Well, just go there and audit classes. You're going to get 0 credit for them. You'll usually take them as pass-fail. You don't get any college credit for them, but you can go in there and learn the trade. And while everybody else has to take Spanish, you have to take a foreign language. I had to take foreign languages to get an English degree. The hell. This is me on my soapbox. They pad those. A writing degree should really be 2 years, and that's why everybody's. But they, with the extra prerequisites and that kind of crap, then they pad them out to 5 years. That's really how it goes. Yeah. So, you can declare a major, or you can go in as undeclared. And if you have to live on campus, like, that's the thing. If you want on housing, I think you have to be a full-time student, or you have to declare a major or something. Well, then
I don't know about declaring a major. I just think you got to be full-time.
Oh, okay. Hell, you could even take like 400 level grad classes. Actually, that would be pretty tough for someone coming out of high school to take a graduate class, because at that point, the thing about graduate classes, and I can speak for English degrees, the difference between an undergraduate English or literature class and a graduate English literature class. In undergrad, they don't expect you to have read the book. In a graduate class, they will have expected you to read the book before class began. Yeah. Like, you probably already read what's something really simple? Hamlet. They expected you have already read
Paradise Lost was the big one for me.
I hate that book.
I had to read it over between undergrad and grad school. I've read Paradise Lost like 5 or 6 times. It's
nice.
Ridiculous. And to the
You
point
know
where
it more than I do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was sick of it after the second time. The first time, it's kind of like, oh, okay, this is interesting, and it's a change of pace, and we're looking at the origin of language as we see it now in a weird sort of way, like literary language. But now it's kind of just, you know the story, you want to be past it, and it's just, nah.
Ethan Champagne says, what is the best way to fight rust? I'm possibly qualifier word, kind of, sort of, not really, maybe, I don't know, moving to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I was wondering how to avoid my car turning into dust. I hope you have a garage. Like, the best way is put it in a garage and then don't drive it, but there's still a lot of moisture in the air. It's still there's still gonna be oxidation on the metal. I mean, you can, in the wintertime, wash the salt off your car. You should wax your car every season. You should wax your car like big time 4 times every year. I do with all of my stuff.
Jay the Griffin asked if we ever took any cinema classes, and that's how we met. In a cinema class.
Cinema classes. Yeah. Movie classes are great for writing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It teaches you structure.
Yeah.
It teaches you sort of constructing theme and character, and you end up with an intrinsic understanding of what works and what doesn't, in that, in screenwriting and in the visual medium of film, it's as much about what you don't write as it is what you do. So it's an interesting way to sort of learn writing as much as it is reading good writing, you know?
I hated, one guy, Average Car Guy, says, I hated reading Raisin in the Sun my sophomore year in high school. Raisin in the Sun.
That's that, oh God, who wrote it?
Is that a young adult?
No, it was a play. Legendary play. Film turned into a film version with Sidney Poitier and remade like thousands of times over. I don't know. I liked it for what it was, but it's one of those things where I could imagine it being very exhausting to continually have to re-encounter it. It's like going into class and being told, hey, we're reading Catcher in the Rye. And it's like, well, am I back in 10th grade again?
If I was in a class and Catcher in the Rye came up, I'm just taking the position of the professor. Whatever, man. Yeah, whatever you want. Because my interpretation of Catcher in the Rye is that Salinger was a World War II vet and didn't want to write about the horrors of war anymore. He wanted to write about simple problems about messed up kids.
Yeah.
That's it.
And more power to him. I mean, It ends up being that. But the thing is, I don't think he expected that to be like the book that would, when they mentioned Salinger, that they mentioned Catcher in the Rye. And that's the thing of like, no author thinks that, well, this one's going to be the one. Yeah. You know, they don't set out maybe trying to write the great American novel, which again, I don't even think the great American novel exists. But if it did, it's East of Eden. Like for me, it's East of Eden still. Although it was Dreiser America. I don't know.
Well, it didn't do well when it came out. I think maybe he tried to do it with Dreiser tried to do it with American Tragedy. Yeah. But again, that is a long ass book, and it doesn't reward you in the end.
And they turned that into a movie called A Place in the Sun.
Oh yeah, that's a downer. Someone highlights my name, Regular Cars. A lot of people asking for RCR Japan. Are you ever going to do it? That would be a logistic mess. Yeah. And we're not a big enough YouTube channel to be able to do that. I have no fixers in Japan.
You really need someone who knows the language over there. A friend of mine went over there with 3 other friends. It was a guy's trip that they went on, basically. And he mentioned how, it was a blast. It was beautiful. It was great. Everything. But logistically, it was a nightmare just because you know, we don't really know where we're going. We go places we don't know how to order things. There were some guys who knew like a little bit. I mean, I have one of my closest friends just moved to Japan, and she got transferred out there, and it's like she's in love with the place because she's been, you know, super Japanese culture person all her life. So she knows, you know, the things, but it's like, you need that type of fixer who they don't have the 9 to 5, or they could call off the 9 to 5 to just take you around places. Yeah. And we're not at that level to be able to just say like, hey, are you willing to completely forego whatever your job is for the next week or two and show us around Japan? Yeah. And then there's also kind of, more than in other places, there would be a major culture shock because we've only visited English speaking nations. Exactly. So if we were to go to, you know, even something like RCR Germany, which, I mean, I imagine it would be a wonderful, beautiful thing. It's just, it's like being an American especially now. It's just like do the Lisa Simpson thing of throwing a Canadian flag on your backpack. Yeah. Just throw a Canadian flag on the Pelican case and just say, hey, what's this all about?
Yeah. No one knows. No one has to know.
Yeah. And plus, and this is the thing I always come back to, but there's a lot of really cool places here we haven't been to. So, I mean, I imagine there's a lot of ground still left to cover in the US.
This one guy, Punch Grom, it says Mighty Car Mods is opening a restaurant.
A restaurant?
Dude, how much YouTube cash do you have to just be throwing around in the most failure-prone business in the world?
That's just...
I would understand it if you were opening a food truck, because...
Yeah, food trucks are...
Like one of my Fallout plans, if suddenly we wake up one day and there's this message on YouTube that begins, well, folks, it's been a wonderful ride. Oh, shit. Well, we regret to inform you that due to circumstances beyond our control, oh, no, the partner program ended. Yeah. Like, what will I do? One of the options is food truck.
Food truck.
I have enough to buy a crappy food truck. That's like the sexy idea. The realistic idea is we would go to some other video platform and work on donations. Yeah. Which would probably be a fraction. I would have to get a job. Yeah. I'd have to get a job. Depending on how, if Jalopnik would hire, that's probably the logical thing. Is I would say, hey, Patrick George, you got any work for me? Yeah. I would do that. Or another idea would be, I would have enough money to live for a few years. I could write a book. I don't know if I'd try to work on a movie or a documentary. From what I learned about a few people who make mini documentaries, even my dream of making the Japanese Speed Wars of the 90s, it's such a niche thing. Like, car culture is like 3 times the size of motorcycle culture. Yeah. Most of motorcycle culture is, you know, American chopper crap. Yeah. That's what your average guy wants. You know, it's Pennsylvania. For those 2 days that when it was really warm this past weekend, all the pretend... I get into my criminal outfit and get on my Harley and around, or I dress up like a ninja and ride my ninja. You know, that stuff. That is motorcycle culture, not really the stuff I'm into, which is like late 70s stuff, or dual sports, of course.
I mean, I have the guy who I was a fellow Nick, Camilleri, who is a filmmaker and whose film hopefully the film comes out in a few months, called The Rose Lady, about the Dale, Liz Carmichael, and
oh right,
yeah, I would like to see, you know, see if he'd be into like co-producing something. I mean,
Interesting,
I don't really know if that's like a hookup or anything, but it's still something where that's a story that deserves to be told and told, well, and right. And I think you could do it. It's just, again, it's a time thing. And with everything being what it is, I mean, my RCR stories, they're nothing. They're PowerPoint presentations, and they take like 4 months. Between like all the research. It's really the research and the writing that takes so long. Because after that, once you record it, well, then you have to go through and edit out all the breathing. And then you have to go and find rights-free images that you're not going to get like flagged. But it's one of those things where there are tons of amazing stories in the automotive industry that people just aren't doing. Randy Lanier, you got Group B Rally, like the whole Toyota thing. And, you have Dieselgate, like tons of stuff that you can literally just spend an entire 2-hour documentary going over.
Because then you start talking about the people involved and all of their stories and trying to guess why they did what they did.
Yeah, and it's interesting. But yeah, but I feel like we ventured way the hell off topic because we started off with the slackers.
Yeah.
And then never got back to it.
Yeah. There was some person, I forget that the comments went by. People ask me this every week. When RCR Canada? RCR Canada can really happen at any time, and that's why it doesn't happen, because it's so easy you don't do it. What I'd like to do for RCR Canada is I'd like to drive the Falcon up there, and I haven't yet tested the Falcon long distance. The farthest ever gone is Carlisle. Again, this is the same old conversation about heat issues. So RCR Canada will happen. It'll probably be in the greater Toronto area, sorry to say, but that's where people are.
And you just go where the highest concentration of, offers would be. Because I guarantee you, if you went into the Gmail right now and just typed in like Toronto, that would just be
Toronto
bam.
area. Yeah.
But
you can ride my 600 in British Columbia.
There was someone up in the... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, maybe it's the same one. The guy asking when we're going to do stuff on a track.
Oh, no, but...
But that's in 2 weeks. Nick won't be there for that, but I'm going to Harris Hill Raceway down near Austin. And crossover episode with Steph Schrader from Black Flag. Or rather, she writes for Black Flag. Not the band, the thing for Jalopnik, like racing and stuff. So she's going to give me some pointers on racing. I'm going to be on a track. New experience for me. And there will be no RCR meet in Austin because it's just me, and I don't know if I could handle a meet all by myself without having a tag team match. And so yeah, that's going to be a few cars in Austin, Texas, in a few weeks.
Speaking of tag teams, did you see the Andre the Giant documentary?
I saw the trailers, but I didn't see it. I wonder if it's going to make me cry.
It made me cry. Well, at the end, there was a referee who was actually my favorite referee growing up, Tim White, who had to retire due to a shoulder injury. But I knew exactly what he was going to say as he was getting choked up, and that's what made me choked up. And then he said it. And I don't know, it's this amazing look into, I mean, as a wrestling fan, I didn't learn anything new other than Hulk Hogan trying to say that going into the WrestleMania 3 match with Andre the Giant that he didn't know if he was going to win or not. I'm like, that is the biggest load of bull that anyone has ever... There's Andre was barely mobile. Hogan had been champion for 3 years at that point and was clearly the future. It's like, if Andre wins, there's nothing that you could do with it. It's just the most preposterous BS story, but it's a carny business.
Yeah.
And especially back then, before the advent of sort of the internet, and you still had cable TV being this new thing and where you could reach a wider audience, it's interesting to presuppose a scenario where Andre winning was somehow believable. A year later they did the finish where they had a rematch and Andre wins because they do this evil twin referee thing where there's the referee had a twin, And so they swapped out the referees, and that referee screwed Hogan, and Andre won the belt, but he immediately surrendered it to the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, who paid him handsomely for it. Like, basically, Ted DiBiase paid Andre the Giant to beat Hulk Hogan for him and then give him the title.
Yeah.
But then they voided that transaction, and it led to a tournament for the title at WrestleMania 4. It's a weird story, and they skip over that, which is... Like, there's no reason for them to tell that story, but I always thought that angle was hilarious. And you end up with this weird story that's mostly about how this guy at age 15 just started growing and didn't stop. And they show him like getting into a car, and they had to have someone outside the car shut the door and like press it in. It's like closing the door to here until it... because it's just so much man, his hand, they show him holding like a can, and it's
the classic thing. It's like he's holding a Dixie cup. Yeah,
it really is. Or like his foot is just like the size of the entire like laptop. It's just a ridiculous size, and it's because of the weird disease, the acromegaly that he had that was left untreated, that can't be reversed. But what I always thought was that it was like everything about him was growing, but in reality it was his body was growing, but his organs remained the same size, and like his heart just couldn't take the output of supplying blood to this enormous body, and he ended up dying of a heart attack. But he knew that he wasn't going to live very long, and so he lived it up really big.
Was the story of him picking up Hulk Hogan or Macho Man or someone in a bar who tried to pay the tab, like him and the chair?
Oh, no, he did that to Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, he says that in the thing of, like, he puts Arnold Schwarzenegger up on a cupboard so that he can't pay the tab, because he's like, you're the boss, buddy. My thing, I'm the boss. And and Andre was a legendary drinker, and so this was a guy who was knocking back 6 bottles of wine a night, and then sort of drinking however many beers. Ric Flair was on there saying that they went out drinking once, and he personally witnessed Andre drink 110 beers over the course of the night. And then when they, for last call, he would order something like 24 rum and cokes, and just they would leave the bar open for Andre because the dude was loaded and financially, but also it was almost impossible to really get him drunk unless he was really going at it, because this was a guy who drank like a fish. But it was a tragedy in a lot of ways, just because he should still be around. Like, the Big Show in WWE now had the same thing that Andre had, but he got it spotted early and got it treated, and it essentially like stopped him from continuing to grow beyond the point that he would, I think Big Show is like pushing 50 now. Andre died when he was, I want to say, like 40 something or other.
Wow.
So yeah, it's an absolutely wonderful documentary, and I would recommend, especially people who aren't really into pro wrestling, give it a look, because it's a human interest story. It's not really about the wrestling business. Like, it is, but it isn't. And it has a lot of interesting stuff about like his experience doing movies. Like, they have this great clip of him from the $6 Million Man where he played Sasquatch. Okay. And yeah, it's just cool stuff. But yeah, back to things. There was someone up there who asked advice for incoming freshmen to college, which I think in terms of like study tips, social tips, and that's kind of like heavy in a sense that like, what would I go back and tell myself as an incoming college freshman?
Knock it off with the video games.
Ooh,
I honestly,
that's a good one.
Seriously, knock it off.
That is a good one.
Oh, but I'm a gamer. That's no such thing. Like 2000, Brian from the year 2000. Yeah, Counter-Strike was great, but that was hours you flushed down the toilet where you had all these great ideas and you played Counter-Strike. Not only that, Brian, you played Counter-Strike when there was no one else on the server. You just ran around shooting every piece of glass in the map. The hell. Yeah, a bunch of people had their hard drive shared. So after you came back from class, you just watched South Park episodes for like 2 hours in the middle of the day.
Yeah. And
2000, Brian, don't don't wait around for when everybody's going to dinner. I know you really want to hang out with everybody, but you would waste about 2 hours a day waiting for people to go to dinner. Just go to dinner when you're hungry. Also, hang out with people smarter than you. Hang out with people smarter than you. There were a few people who you hung out a little bit. They could have gotten your grades up. And work out more, and girls are way easier than you think they are.
Yeah.
that was an old thing.
Well, I mean, yeah. But, well, I mean, it's that you gave advice this one time, and it was a similar question, but from a high schooler, and you said that they want it just as much as we do. It's just not proper, I guess, for them to impart, or especially when we were that age.
Oh, yeah. Also, don't wait until junior year to start using the university's weight room. It's free to everybody. Go. Hey, remember when you started working out and then you got your summit girl? Hey, you see a correlation there when you were working out almost every other day? And you were like down, you were like 168 pounds and not a whole lot of fat on you.
Yeah.
Not teabag.
It's very, yeah.
Also, no one cares that you were flipping burgers. It was a job. That was probably a good idea, flipping burgers. And honestly, the janitor job was pretty good too.
You have money you can pay for, things. You that's all that matters.
Also, learn how to work on your car and don't spend so much money on making it look fast. Honestly, your Dodge Neon, you should have just not done a single thing to it. Stupid Knight Rider scanner light and that subwoofer that you didn't need. Look, you're in college, you have a stock car with an automatic transmission. Just leave the car alone.
Yeah, the rich kids who have really nice cars in college are of a far smaller and less recognizable percentage than in high school when, Johnny Trust Fund shows up as friggin', whatever.
Girls don't care that your car is fast. Girls care if your car is clean.
Girls care that you have one at all.
Yeah.
That's the point of, having the car is having that freedom. And by the same token, the dorm or the apartment or...
Also, wash your bed sheets every week. Don't go a month. That's why your room smelled. And that's why nobody wanted to go in there.
That's when you realize the value of your mother. Like, the true value.
Yeah, you wonder why that room stinks so much. Hey, also, your bath towel gets dirty. That you wash your bath towel. You should really... Everything comes off your bed when you come home during the weekend to wash your clothes. Strip the entire bed. I mean, I still don't even do that now. We're pushing 3 weeks with the bed sheets in that room.
I had to find out the hard way about my blankets. And I'm just like, this smells like something died inside of something that was already dead. It was a kind of weird, just, ugh. But yeah, and on my end, I realized that sometimes it's easier to just stay in and make your own sort of quick whatever meal. Like I had a panini press, and I had I would do grilled. I would just like buy a bag of chicken breasts from the market that was across the street.
Yeah, and
just like slap that on. I'm just like, and as I'm writing a paper, because it's like, when you're in the thick of it, and that's the thing of once you get, if you're writing a paper and you get in the groove, like force yourself to stay in that groove, like, because if you lose it, it's so hard to get it back. It's really hard to like get back into the headspace of, what was the point I was making? I don't know. Anytime I was writing about like a novel and I had, my thesis idea, my thesis statement about, American exceptionalism, because it's always American exceptionalism. It's just an easy topic. But if I would allow myself let me see how Final Fantasy 12 is doing right now, and I just like go and play a game for like a few hours, and suddenly, whatever good idea I had is gone, and it's true of paper writing. It's true of short fiction. It's true of, just about any good idea that I had or any enthusiasm I had to do it was killed by video games. It was killed by women. It was killed by hey, let's go to Sharky's or let's go to the First and we'll like just knock back a few. And I would convince myself that, hey, it'll be good for your creativity to just have a few in you and you'll start writing. And what really happens is, no, you end up texting an ex.
Yeah.
And suddenly it's 6 a.m. and you realize it's getting closer to the point where you gotta like get up to brush your teeth for class, and then you're thinking like, how badly do I really need to brush my teeth for class? You know, like I have gum, and who am I really going to see at this class anyway? Because I'm gonna come back home when it's over at 10 a.m. and I'm just gonna sleep again anyway.
Yeah.
But like, you can't think of the shortcuts. You got to think of it as something that you're giving your full ass, even as, you know, the looming temptations of partying remain.
Someone asked in the comments, how do you deal with writer's block? The way you deal with it is you leave this at home and you get yourself one of these. This has no Wi-Fi connection, and it doesn't get any service. You put paper in this because the only thing now you can do is write.
Yep.
You get this in your book and you have at it. That's how I write RCR. I'm on the floor, my glasses are off, I can't see anything but what's in front of me, and lo and behold, I can, you know, if needed, I can write an episode in an hour. Yeah. Because suddenly there's nothing else to do but the work.
Yep. And if I go into public, I'll go to like the cafe or something with just the notebook, and the only thing that could possibly distract you is something potentially enriching, like an interaction with another person, or, you know, it's just little things of going out. Yeah. You just go out and people watch, and that can help with writer's block. Or a big thing is just walking around. Like, I'll walk around my neighborhood and just think things over. And, you know, showers, gym, just places where you're not having to engage with technology. And I know that's kind of a cliche to say that, but still. Oh.
Steve G says, if you are acting like you don't care about anything, you're not being cool and detached. You're just boring. Me to 2000s me. Yeah.
Because genuine not giving a damn about anything is something that you can't really fake. Like, it comes off as artifice if you're acting as though you don't care about anything, because that takes genuine effort.
Yeah.
You know, if you really don't care about anything, it's appealing to people because it's like so far away from the norm of what a person is supposed to be like. And I don't know. It's just people assume that this is what you're supposed to do to get people to like you, is to be mysterious and brooding and kind of a little bit of a dick, you know? Just neg them a little bit, you know, negging girls. And I'm like, that's the dumbest thing in the world, because what they really respond to is confidence, and not confidence in the, like, I think I'm great part, but confidence in the, I don't need you to validate me. Like, I have a life without you. Like, the minute, in my experience, what's unattractive to a woman is the idea that your day begins and ends with her. And so that the minute, you know, you hang up the phone at the end of the night, you know, you power down until she calls you again the next day. And it's like, that's not what it's supposed to do. And I wish I could have told myself this like not too long ago, but it's one of those things where, you know, learning and maturing and evolving is an ongoing process. And a lot of people will make mistakes and say and do stupid things, but that's written in the fabric of our DNA. Yeah. You know, it's just, we are who we are, and we're always going to be learning right up until they put us in the ground. Yeah. Or spread our ashes in some foreign land that we weren't fortunate enough to visit while we were alive. So we left the responsibility to our children to go there for it. And then Wes Anderson writes a movie about it or something. But yeah.
So that was good.
The slackers.
The slackers. So I'm standing there in the upstairs of Mr. Small's Funhouse. And I see him, I see Disco Dave, and I wanted to go up to Vic Ruggiero. Here we go again. Ruggiero. To go up to, I'll just say Vic. Just to go up to Vic and say this line, which people have said to me. Oh man, I love your music. I love your work. Your music got me through a bunch of tough times back in this year. I was going through this, but then I listened to your music and I felt a whole lot better. And he probably gets that. As people, I've gotten emails from fans who said I was going through some really bad stuff, and then they say what the bad stuff is, and your videos helped me back from the brink. And my response to that is, hey, thanks, man. Like,
it's just what
it's like. Awesome.
Yeah.
It's like, it's TMI, but you don't want to say it is, because when someone says that to you, it means they care, which means I care a lot about Vic. I care a lot about his band. I care that they've been doing this since 90-fucking-1.
Yeah.
When they were like, and Vic is only like in his mid 40s. He's only like 10 years older than us. And he's been doing this for 25 years. So he like had this vision of, I'm going to be a musician. And it shows you how small ska music is. Like what? The biggest ska bands ever in the U.S. were maybe Mighty Mighty Boss Tones and Real Big Fish. And they both had one hit.
Yeah. Well, there is the eternal argument of whether or not Early No Doubt was ska, and they were influenced by it, but they were not. So I don't think they were ska. But you know, if there are people who want to make that argument, I'm sure they could. But it's still, you know, for someone who'd been doing it that long, and imagine like we've only been doing this for like 4 or 5 years, and how often we hear that thing of, hey, you got me through some rough stuff. Now multiply that by 5, and how often he's probably heard that. And
they're touring all the time.
Yeah.
And it was also cool that they weren't waiting in the green room. They were just at the bar, hanging out, and knowing that they're going to have to get on that bus. And they played Pittsburgh last night.
Yeah.
So they played Philly one night. They played Pittsburgh last night. Oh, no, they played Pittsburgh 2 nights ago. Philly the next night. Maybe someplace in New York City. And then they're driving to Montreal. Or not Montreal, some Canadian city. Maybe Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal. And then I'm looking at their schedule. And then it's back down into like Hartford, Connecticut. And then there's a break. And then it says Buenos Aires.
Damn.
I'm like, they just tour and tour and tour.
Wide. And that sounds like a very Isle of Man experience in that, or Isle of Man TT experience in that, you know, no green rooms. It's like everybody's around and about, and you can interact with them as, you know, courtesy dictates.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really cool. And so wait, did you approach him at all?
At the end of the show, Vic was at the bar again. Or no, he wasn't at the bar. He was at some table or like standing by the, you know, that you go to any bar and they have that 2 foot, not even 2 foot, like 1.5 foot tray kind of table that just runs along the wall.
Yeah, it's just sort of a
put your drink here because we're out of tables and the bar is full. So just stand around here. He was at one of those, and I'm like, it's on the way out of the room, out of the venue, and I just said, thanks for playing. You really brought it tonight. Love it. And he shook my hand and he said, thanks, man. Ooh. And then I said something and he said something and I didn't quite understand. And I just leaned in. I'm sorry, what? And I don't remember what he said because it's like I'm standing next to Vic and I'm shaking his hand and his hand is large but soft. And he had large/soft hands, a lot like Justin Kramer. Stats, characteristics, writing about the 5 senses, everything about him. And I guess he looked a little tired, and then I went out. And then I also talked to Disco Dave. Well, Disco Dave, I guess, because has more energy because he plays the saxophone, and he's also like the MC of the band, which I didn't know. Like he's the guy who announces everybody because I guess he's the first guy that comes out, him and the drummer. Yeah. And then Disco Dave announces everybody else. I guess the drummer's just playing some beat as the band comes up on stage. The bass player stands out in this crisp white suit and a waxed handlebar mustache that comes up. Not only he's playing like one of those big bass guitars that looks like almost too big, but he rests it on a drum throne that also matches his suit. So he's sort of playing a bass guitar as an upright bass. I guess he has an upright bass too, but he prefers to do it this way.
Yeah. I saw on Twitter that Len said that you got pulled on stage at one point.
I didn't get pulled on stage, and it wasn't during the Slackers portion. The second opening band, the drummer is a fan of RCR, and before the show, he came up to me and it was like, "Oh my God, it's you." Now, granted, I was wearing a regular car review shirt. Yeah. And I was wearing that in the hopes that someone from Slackers was a car guy and I would get a shout out. But I got a shout out from the opening band, which is equally as cool. Yeah. And it was this weird moment with the second band. Oh man, I have their one of the guys gave me a USB stick with like 2 songs on it.
Nice.
And in between songs, the guy one of the guys says, "I hear there's a celebrity in the audience." And I'm like, "Huh?" It was that one Mississippi, huh? Oh, wait, that's probably me. And then I didn't know I kind of looked away a little bit. Like, where's Mr. Regular? And I was like, there's no rows. I'm like pretty much up on the stage, like up in front of the stage. Anyway, and just say hi. And, oh, this guy, who reviews cars really funnily. And he says, and they were like motioning me up. So I go right up to the stage. I don't get on it. I'm not going to get up on the stage. First of all, I'd have to crawl over the monitors and then I'd be up there. And the monitors, the audio monitors were just sitting on folding chairs. So I'm like, I don't want to like topple one of these things over. So I just say, hey. And then the rhythm guitar player for the opening band says, "Want to review my van?" He says like a van or something, like some sort of van. I think it was like a Ford Windstar or something. And I tried to make a joke right there saying, "You can't have a van, you don't have an ankle bracelet on." But I don't think he heard me. It was really loud in there. Yeah. I was wearing ear protection anyway. Yeah. So there exists footage of that. It's on Len's phone. I'll have to ask her if she has it. And maybe I'll post it. And it'll probably be like every single cell phone video of a band that you hear. It's just going to be peaking audio. You can't hear crap. And, I mean, I could subtitle it.
Probably. Jack Murphy asks, should you stay in a long-term relationship with someone you're not going to marry through your early college years, or is independence more important? And to that I say, absolutely independence is more important because college is supposed to be where you figure yourself out. Mm-hmm. Now, if you care about the girl a lot, like if you think this could be your person, then absolutely stay with that person. But you got to think, like, if I'm with this person for 4 years of college and you're not just thinking about what I'm going to do with my life, you're thinking about like how your lives are going to align after college. And if they don't, then you've pretty much just spent 4 years not exploring everything that college has to offer, especially if you went to somewhere like I went to Penn State in the main campus, and I was like trying to get, as much experience as I could, because it's like I was nothing with women in high school. And so it's like so it's like either come out of your shell now or be alone forever. Like that was my,
But if you're already in a relationship, ask yourself this: do you want to snuggle after you nut? Or do you just want an empty bed? And if you just want an empty bed, then treat it as a casual relationship. And if it drifts apart, it drifts. If you drift apart, you drift apart. Yeah. Don't value. This is probably one of your lines. It's like, don't treat a girl as a fulcrum on which your life balances.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't.
It can't be.
Actually, I think that's a Henry Rollins line.
It can be a thing that is worth getting up for, but it can't be the only thing you get up for. And also there's enough pressure in college as it is. Like sometimes, you're in the middle of a paper and you don't want to think about how, you don't want to think about, well, am I going to anger her by saying like, hey, I'm too tired from writing this paper. I know you wanted me to come over and like watch whatever, like bullshit Housewives of whatever shit. But it's like you also, I guess college is a time to not only explore, but also to be a little selfish, to say that, maybe I don't want to go out, or maybe I don't want something serious. Maybe I just want to nut and fall asleep. It's not like, but some people are on team nut and sleep. And some people are on team nut and cuddle. And, some people are on neither team and just, want to do the whole solo thing. And every team is absolutely fine, provided that you can find the person to be on that team with, unless it's the whole team solo thing, in which case, you've already found you. But college isn't an opportunity to find even more of you. Like, that's the thing of like, college was some of the best years of my life just because it was so pregnant with possibility. And
that's a good line.
Yeah, it's just like all this potential and all this freedom, this sudden rush of like, adrenaline from all the freedom that you're getting and all the possible things that you can do with that freedom and the people that you can do it with and all the sort of things that you realize that, hey, I didn't know I liked chartreuse, but apparently I like chartreuse.
Yeah.
And, maybe I don't like basketball. Oh, maybe I do like playing basketball. Like, it's just everything you find out about yourself in college. It could be at an educational level. You could figure out like, well, maybe I came into this thinking that I wanted to major in English, and now I realize maybe I want to, go in a more, tech related field. I don't know. It's about figuring yourself out, and that's the big thing. Yeah. Cuddle nut Cheerios.
Well, we've been going for an hour.
Let me see.
So the Slacker show is good. It helped me get over my fear of dancing, and I did dance at the show. Took me about a few songs. Once the Slackers got on, and because I listened to them for so long, I knew the words to about 80% of the songs they were playing. And even some of the new songs, they write songs that are so singable. They keep repeating the chorus, and it's sort of a call and answer chorus. Glenn Pine is really good at that. Yeah. And it was wild. Like, I think they opened with Easy. There was this one moment where I guess they reached the end of their set list, and Vic just says, okay, I guess we'll take requests. You want anything? Some people started yelling. Actually, there was like a pause. Like, is he really going to just ask us stuff? Some people yelled out something. I yelled out the song 86 The Mayo, which is one of my favorite ska songs. And there was a bunch of people yelling, but Glenn Pine looked at me and he said, oh, that's good. But then they played something else, but something else was also good.
I'm on the subreddit right now.
Okay.
This person just asked, and by the way, if you go to our subreddit, r/regular car reviews, there's a thread there at the top called Ask RCR. You just submit all your questions there, and maybe we'll get to them in the podcast here. So anyway, this person asks, are you guys going to go to Sobs at Carlisle? And I'm beginning to wonder, does Carlisle just do a, automaker at Carlisle for every automaker?
Hey, they're making bank there.
I believe it.
Geez, we're going to be at Carlisle twice this year for Ford and Chrysler. Do I want to go to Sobs at Carlisle? Probably not. I'm starting to plan my summer out, and a lot of it is me hiking. Yeah. And a lot of it is me riding my motorcycle.
It'll be a good summer.
Yeah, better be. It's going to be welcomed with open arms this year.
Oh, man, I'll be running to it in slow motion with my arms out. this person asks, looking for a car to learn manual in that's fun to drive. 99 to 06 Toyota Celica, an Acura RSX, or Mazda MX-5.
Toyota's out because they're a little bit notchy. What was it? Was an
and then the other one's 99.
Acura NS. What did Acura? Oh, Acura RSX. Well, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much an Accord. And the last one was a Mazda. Well, Miata's always the answer. But if you're young and you're going to be doing that type of car, unless the caveat is, does the MX-5 come with the optional hard top that you latch on? If it does, I'd say go with the Miata. Again, if you fit in it. Yeah. If you're a taller guy, even with me, I don't know. The Acura RSX is just a regular car, and it's a front-wheel drive car. That would... If you're wealthy enough that you have a different daily and this is going to be a car on the side, be a Miata. If this is going to be your only car, go with the Acura RSX.
And a similar question is, what were some good front-wheel drive manual cars from the late 90s and early 2000s?
Geez, really? Any Honda Civic with that little D-Series single jingle, that's great. The lighter, the better, from the late 90s. Even the basic Corollas. I forget when the Toyota Matrix came out. That's one of the... That's still... I really considered that as the RCR camera car, but I'm on Team Subaru now. Someone says Honda Prelude. Duh, of course. How could I forget the Prelude?
Absolutely.
Neon, early 2000s it's out, because the second gen Neon, apart from the SRT4, the second gen is junk. First gen Neon Highline, very good. Yeah. But you got to address the head gasket issue. You got to get that thing tested in a very Subaru fashion.
Yeah. There was a conversation that I threw up on the Facebook page on Saturday night, just sort of out of boredom, about asking people what their favorite racing games of all time were, and not what the best one is, but literally just what your favorite is. And it was a lot of interesting answers, because there was someone here who mentioned The Crew by Ubisoft, which is a weird racing game that has a pretty terrible storyline to it. Mm-hmm. But I'm glad that there's someone else in the world who likes Crew. But it's that strange thing, again, of video games and the time vampire that they become.
Yeah.
Like, there's this game called Project Cars 2 that I really want to get into, but I don't know where the time is. And I don't know. My favorite racing game of all time is a game called Grid, and it was for PlayStation 3, and they released a Grid 2, and I never got around to it. But I mean, part of me will always have a soft spot for San Francisco Rush 2049. And I don't know what it is about the year 2049 that, like, the fiction just says, hey, all right, we're doing 2049.
There's something about having an odd number. If a number is an odd number, somehow it feels more legit. I forget who was talking about that.
Dirt Rally, for sim racing, Project Cars 2 right now. It's funny, I didn't see a lot of Forzas in there, which I always thought was like the new Gran Turismo in terms of, that's the car purists' choice.
I think when I think of old racing games, the best ones were always arcades, because they had a wheel. And yeah, racing games with a controller for me just doesn't work.
It's hard to kind of get the same feel and the same feedback.
You'd have to be that guy with the home setup, with the like, even the simple ones that Automation had. Actually, no, they went all out. They welded a chair and stuff down like that. Then it becomes fun. But now you're that guy with the racing simulator in his house that takes up a lot of room.
Yeah. Did you ever play Road Rash for Genesis? It was a motorcycle game.
Yeah, I played that. I like that game.
It was a weirdly violent game for what was ostensibly just a motorcycle racing game.
There's a word for that Chuck Palahniuk came up with. in the late 90s Clinton era, intentionally violent karma, like it's a type of media that Fight Club is, and there's a word for it. It's like it falls under the umbrella of shock humor.
Oh.
There was a game called Carmageddon where they
I remember
Carmageddon.
I think there were like congressional hearings about Carmageddon because didn't you get points for like running people over or something?
Yeah.
Or some crazy mess.
Like the jokingly sadistic stuff that the first GTA game where people went splat.
And that was just a top-down, isometric.
Remember
type.
Postal?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do remember Postal. And that's one of those things where another one of those games that freaked out like the government, like that one Rockstar game, Manhunt, or this one canceled Mortal Kombat knockoff called Thrill Kill that was just about like patients in a mental ward that were all like, it was super violent. And I don't know, Manhunt actually did come out though, and that was, you had some really messed up ways of killing people in that game, and it was just mostly a thing of, it was kind of a Hunger Games type thing of survive and you get your sentence commuted, I think, or something like that. But
yeah, you don't get that in games now. Not that I'm looking at it with rose-colored glasses. It is like, as I age, it is kind of messed up.
Yeah.
That I remember this first-person shooter called Soldier of Fortune, and then they made a second one. But the first Soldier in Fortune, not only did like the NPCs gib, but they were also, you could also dismember them. Like if you shot them in the arm with like a larger caliber weapon, it would take their arm off, and then like blood would splurt out. If you shot them in the head would explode and chunks came out. So there'd like be a body with no head. Stuff like you shoot them in the leg and then they'll hop around for a little bit and then wither and cry in pain.
Oh.
Like you shoot them in the chest, it would like open a chest hole. Right?
That's
right?
Yeah. That was the kind of thing that, and this gets off on the historical badge, but the opening of like Medal of Honor Frontline, where it's literally just the opening scene from Saving Private Ryan at the start, and you have guys crying for their mothers. And it's that type of thing of like, when that generation was fighting the war, it would be inconceivable to them to think that their suffering would be turned into a form of entertainment,
right? A
form of interactive entertainment. Because even during the most absurd conflicts, the most dangerous conflicts, that a film is going to be made about it. Mm-hmm. But, no one's going to make 9/11 the video game, or I'm sure somebody at an indie level has, but I hope to God no one does at a major developer level, because that's a terrible idea, even 100 years from now.
Right.
But still, it's like, it's hard because, you have video games that are, they can be as much a didactic learning experience as they are an entertainment experience.
Mm-hmm.
There are things that you learn about from video games that you might not learn from other aspects of media. There are people who learned about cars through playing, Need for Speed, or playing Midnight Club, or modding their cars in Grid or Gran Turismo. There's people who kind of learned about what a certain cars can and can't do in, Burnout. It's that type of experience where, it kind of teaches you what constitutes a good car, I guess.
What I'd like to see out of racing games, and maybe this is me blaming the 90s, but in stuff like Gran Turismo 1, any upgrades to the car you do made the car better. And in real life, there's no guarantee that that's going to change a damn thing. Yeah. They should have a racing game where, you add that cold air intake, it costs $400, and your car doesn't change a damn thing until you tune the ECU, and then it maybe does something.
Yeah,
like wheels don't change anything unless they should have wheels that are heavier than stock wheels, so your unsprung weight goes up, and then that's bad, and your car handles like crap. They should have your car brake, like as we learned in a video that's coming up next week. Well, I don't want to get off sidetrack, but I will tell people. if you put a bigger turbo but you don't put a bigger intercooler on, your engine gets too hot and can't cool itself, and then you may have then you're going to burn piston rings and things like that. The video that's coming up next week, Monday from today, is not going to be a New Zealand video. There is a time constraint that I had to meet for it, so there's going to be a USDM car shot in the United States over in New Jersey that's coming out on Monday, but it is relevant to some of the JDM cars in New Zealand, as it can prime you for the video that the season finale to RCR NZ.
Yeah. Gran Turismo 4 mods will make a car worse, which forces you to manually tune everything. Oh, see, and that's why, is because in Gran Turismo I never got past 2. So I'm not experienced with the more recent ones, like GT Sport, or I guess that's the most recent one. It's kind of strange in the fact that racing video games are kind of you know what you're getting with each one. It's just the level of sim that you want out of it. And again, like, not to do cheap plug, but like, that's the appeal with automation, of you're getting a legitimate sim of what it is to sort of build a car from the ground up and try to, you know, get all of those crazy things that you want in the car, but also without making a car that's going to just completely junk itself the minute it starts running. And that is also going to have that like 4-quadrant appeal in the market, you know.
Beam NG. I don't know if I can say this, but I think Andrew and Kaz talked about it, that they're working on. I tested, and I think it was like a beta or an alpha, or I don't know what that calls it. Which one's like a very early version that the cars you build in automation now can be exported into Beam NG. It's not yet. They're working on it.
Yeah.
So you can build a car. I did it with the turbo first gen Neon that didn't exist. I made one in automation and then put it into Beam NG. It imported everything, all the parameters. The car itself is rendered in Beam exactly how I made it. They're still working, like turn signals and stuff. Some things didn't end up. You have to wait for it to fully render before you start it. But then you drive it around and like, I want to play, because I have Beam NG, but I don't have a steering wheel, and that makes a world of a difference. So that's another reason to have automation, because they're working on that exporter. At the time, Beam NG doesn't have the coding to support turbocharged cars. So what happens is, if you build a turbocharged car in automation, put it into Beam NG, the performance still will be there. It'll still have the same horsepower and torque numbers, but it won't make choo-choo sounds, and Beam NG just treats it as an NA car with similar with similar power parameters. But there wasn't. It would be like a turbo car with 0 turbo lag and a completely linear turbo car, so it wouldn't have the feel of it. But the point is, you're driving a car you made, and now you don't want to crash it, or maybe you do. You're more attached to it, and it's more reason to have both games.
This person asked, or do a video of making a car on automation, and you did, didn't you? Like for
automation, yes.
Automation, and so if you go to Automation's YouTube channel,
yeah, I think they have the footage of me driving it in Beam, but whether they're waiting for that for the official announcement, I don't know. I hope I didn't scoop them. It's just a question of when they're going to do it, and definitely I'll be making a big stink about that when it happens, because it's just a long time coming.
Yeah, I mean, it's an impressively made sim, especially from a design standpoint. Yeah, if you go to the Automation Game, their YouTube channel, it's the car design competition that you judged.
Yeah,
and those are the 3 top videos at the moment.
But yeah, it should provide you with a sort of walkthrough of the game and different
aspects of what goes into making those cars. It's interesting to kind of see what type of cars you're capable of building, because you really can build anything. It's just a matter of, does it make sense, or are you just building the Homer that it can't possibly sell?
Okay, we've been going on this close to an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah, it should be good. There was a guy earlier in the chat who wanted a quick shout out to his son who watches the show. I think his name was Nick Gers, but either way, shout out to Nick Gers.
Shout out to Nick Gers. Hello, thanks for liking our silly show.
Yeah, and I have a soft spot for fellow Nicks, so that's always how I, is. How I is. Oh my God, really?
How I am.
Oh, it's Monday. And the weather, it was literally 70s on Friday and Saturday. And then yesterday, it just decided to go to the 40s with insane winds and raining. It rained all the way up here, up my ass.
Yeah.
And it was just driving me nuts. And apparently it's going to be mid to low 50s the rest of the week and raining here. And I just have no patience for any of it. I don't. Ugh.
I'm going to be a hermit most of this week because I have to finish the video I was talking about, and then the video after that. I need to complete 2 videos this week just because I'm going to be gone the week after next for RCR Austin, and I don't want to miss a week. I don't want to miss a thing. All right, guys.
All right. Well, that's a wrap on RCR podcast number 24. And next week is number 25. I don't think we're doing anything special. Maybe it'll be a super chat thing where people can donate, but I don't know why anyone would give money for a live podcast.
Right.
But who cares? If they want to give money, I'm not going to stop them. But anyway, my name is Nick.
My name's Brian.
Have a good week, everyone.
Bye-bye. Take care.
No, we're always going opposite Rogan.
Why are you still here?